Gwinnett County Public Library presents Photography 101. My name is Ashley, a Learning Lab specialist at GCPL. With your library card, you will have access to free photography resources, including iMacs with Adobe Suite and DSLR and mirrorless cameras at our Learning Labs. Every other Wednesday, we will be covering the foundations of photography to get you started. Today, we will be covering how cameras work. Let's start with the most basic idea of how a camera works, which is the natural phenomenon of the camera obscura. This discovery dates back as early as 500 BCE and was used by astronomers, physicists, magicians, and artists for many applications, from creating compositions to studying lunar eclipses. Camera obscura translates to dark room and is literally a darkened room with a single hole that light from the outside is filtered through, and because light travels in straight lines, the image is projected inside the room upside down and reversed. Every camera, from the beginning of photography until now, is at its most basic level a camera obscura. A small darkened room with a hole at the front that's able to record this magical projected light that reproduces the natural image in front of it. The most basic of this in practice is a pinhole camera, which takes the idea of the camera obscura as a darkened room and turns it into a darkened box with a pinhole at the front. When you open the pinhole, light from the outside scene is projected into the box. Again, just like all cameras, the image is inverted because light travels in straight lines, and when reaching the pinhole, it converges and reverses itself. This is also how images reach your eyes in every type of camera. Here's an image by Abe Morrell showing us how a camera obscura works, and has photographed 2 light bulbs. So there's actually 1 light bulb, but through the magic of the camera obscura, it appears that this image has 2. So why does this happen? If light is capable of doing this, why don't we see projections of images all the time? Let's say we're in a normal room and light is streaming through the window. Light is reflecting off of all the objects outside and bouncing that light into the room and our eyes. We can't see any of this as a picture, but rather just light because there's so much of it. But when we block out most of that light and isolate that reflected light through an aperture or small hole, the light will converge and reverse to create an image. So we can isolate the objects being reflected and see them. Your eye and a camera work using the same basic principles of light. A camera was basically the technological endeavor of how to make our eye into a machine that could make permanent what we see. In that way, developing your eye is the best way to become a better photographer, but also thinking about how your eyes work will help you understand how your camera and lenses work too. Lenses and mirrors to make the image brighter, sharper, and right side up were soon added to the camera obscuras. By the 1700s, they had become quite popular with artists and upper-class hobbyists to create drawings. They were then shrunken down, with a lens put at the front and a mirror in the center to reflect the image, and a ground glass on the top to view it. This is basically what cameras still look like today. Next, a whole technological history of photography leading to camera bodies as we know them now happened. There are 3 main types of cameras that are used: small, medium, and large format. Small and medium format cameras come in film and digital versions by different companies, while large format is film only. Small format cameras are by far the most popular and widely used today. There are 3 main types: single lens reflex, or DSLR, and mirrorless, which can both be professional grade cameras, and point and shoots. In the coming weeks, we will go over some of the specific DSLR and mirrorless cameras that are available at GCPL's Learning Labs. Most DSLR and mirrorless cameras will have interchangeable lenses, which allows you to have more control over your images and use higher quality lenses than a point-and-shoot camera with an attached zoom lens. Digital cameras have a sensor in them that is light sensitive in the place of film. For reference, here is a diagram of more popular sensor sizes. If you have a film camera, you will have the largest light sensitive area possible for a small format camera, that of a 35mm frame of film. And that is what digital cameras are referring to when they say they have a full frame sensor. That the digital camera's sensor is the same size as a frame of 35mm film. If you have a crop sensor digital camera, that means your sensor is smaller than a frame of 35mm film. For reference, this is a comparison shot of a piece of 35mm film next to a cropped digital sensor. If you have a full frame digital sensor, it'll be the same size as this piece of film. And if you have a cropped frame, this is about the size that it'll be in relation to that. So in essence, all cameras work in the same fundamental way as a pinhole camera and as one another. Now the pinhole is the camera's lens and it's attached to a camera body. In an SLR camera's case, it's also attached to a pentaprism or viewfinder. So here's a diagram of the interior of an SLR or single lens reflex camera. It's called this because it has one lens and a mirror that reflects the light. So light travels through the lens and the body of the camera, hits the mirror that reflects up through the pentaprism, which is a series of small mirrors that makes the image right side up in the viewfinder. When you hit the shutter button to make an image, the mirror flips up, the shutter curtain will rise, and the light will reach the film or sensor to record the image. Here is a side view of a digital SLR camera with the interchangeable lens taken off, so we can see the mirror hanging down, allowing the light to reflect up through the pentaprism and into the viewfinder to see the image. When the shutter is pressed down, that's what's going to flip up to make way for the light path. Remember that you can see what the lens sees right side up when you look through the viewfinder because of the series of mirrors that's inside the camera body. This is like how your brain processes the images that your eyes receive to see them right side up. When you take the image, it actually reaches the film or sensor just like a Camera Obscura, upside down and backwards, and is corrected by the sensor or when you print or scan your film. If your camera has a mirror in it, you may have noticed that the viewfinder goes black when you take an image. This does not mean that your camera is broken. It's because the mirror has flipped up so the light can reach your sensor and it's no longer being reflected into the viewfinder. Now, there are also mirrorless digital cameras that have no mirror and instead have basically a little computer that recreates what the lens is seeing instead of a pentaprism that can be viewed in an EVF, electronic viewfinder, or the screen on the back of your camera. Besides lacking a mirror, mirrorless cameras work the same way as an SLR camera when you take the image. Thank you for joining us for Photography 101. To book an appointment to use our learning labs and photography equipment, go to gwinnettpl.org/meeting-rooms. Please leave your questions in the comments or contact us at learninglabs@gwinnettpl.org. And be sure to tune in every other Wednesday for new photography tutorials.